Hello, my name is Franciscan Father Albert Haase, and today I'd like to talk about the four traditional stages of the spiritual life. What does it look like as we grow in our relationship with God? Or more importantly, what does it look like as we allow God's grace into our lives? Traditionally, the spiritual life begins with what's called the awakening. The awakening is the time when I become serious about my relationship with God. I suddenly wake up one day and I realize that, you know what? I've got everything I've wanted in life. I've got everything, and yet I'm still restless. I'm still dissatisfied, and I come to realize that I need God in my life. You know, as Augustine says, our hearts are restless until they rest in God. And so I will have some kind of experience that usually will awaken me to God's presence in my life and the call of God to deepen a relationship with God. Now, this awakening can sometimes be a wonderful experience. I might take some time off and have a weekend retreat in which I have this wonderful experience of God's goodness in my life. It can also be, the awakening can also be a time of great tragedy. I'm suddenly diagnosed with a disease, someone whom I love dies, and I suddenly realize I need God in my life. And so the awakening can either be good or it can be bad. And if we respond to it, we then move into the next stage, the second stage of the spiritual life, and that's the stage of purgation. The stage of purgation is really characterized by me doing all the work. It's in the stage of purgation when I take seriously the call to daily prayer. I begin to take seriously the call for moral integration in my life. And so I take a look at my life and I see where all the deliberate sins that I continue to commit, I make a concerted effort to end those deliberate sins. So the stage of purgation is always characterized by what I do. I begin to show signs of my love for God by getting my moral life in order and by committing myself to a period of daily prayer, and then thirdly, by becoming involved in the life of a community, in the life of a church. As we gradually work through the stage of purgation, suddenly we find God's grace beginning to take over. And that's the stage, the third stage, called the stage of illumination. One of the characteristics of the stage of illumination is that I suddenly wake up and discover there's nothing really to get in the spiritual life because I already have it. I'm surrounded by the presence of God. That's a characteristic of the stage of illumination. That somehow or another, I don't have to try to capture God or get God in the net as if I'm trying to capture a butterfly or a bird. Rather, the stage of illumination is characterized by the fact that my eyes are suddenly opened and I realize and experience God's goodness that surrounds me. And as I grow in that illuminative insight, I'm gradually moved into the fourth stage of the spiritual life, and that is the stage of union. That is a stage when I come to the great discovery that St. Paul discovered, that it is no longer I who live. Christ lives in me. That at the very core of my being, I am already united to the presence of God, and I'm surrounded by God, and God dwells in me. So those are the four traditional stages of the spiritual life: awakening, purgation, illumination, and union. Now let me just say one last thing about those traditional four stages. Most people tend to think of the spiritual journey as linear, that I start with the awakening, and once I get that homework done, I move to the stage of purgation. And once I get the homework of purgation done, I move to the stage of illumination and then to union. Let me tell you something. Those are not distinct stages as we sometimes think they are, but rather, all of us, as we grow in our spiritual lives with God, all of us could be experiencing those four stages at the same time. that in some areas of my life, I am experiencing the union with God. In some areas of my life, I am just wakening up to the fact that I need to change this behavior. I need to purge myself of it. So the four traditional stages of the spiritual life, awakening, purgation, illumination, and union, they are not distinct stages, but rather they are different dimensions. They are different cyclic processes that are constantly going on in our lives as we grow and mature in a relationship with God. Thank you very much.